Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Arana Kuriyo Mane Asha. Too slow. Yeah. Shri Guru Charane Rare Ese Udama Gati. Jai Prasade Puri Sarva Asha. Chakudana Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Say. Divya Gyan Hriday Prakasito. Prema Bhakti Cha Hoite Advidya Vinasa Jaite. Vedaga Jara Garito. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adamajanara Bandhu. Lokana Lokara Jivana. Srila Prabhupada Lokara Jivana. Ha Prabhu Kora Doya Deo More Padachaya. Ebeja Sisik Devana. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavari Paskatare Satarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Jagannath Swami, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladeva, Jai Subhadra. Jagannath Swami, Nayana Badagami, Baba Tume. Jaya Nita, Gaura Sundar, Nita, Gaura Sundar, Gaura Sundar. Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva. Jaya Radha, Radhanath, Radha, Radhanath, Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramsa Parivikacharya Stotadashi Shrimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. BBT Founder Food for Life Founder Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Bhaktivedanta Purports Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramsa Parivikacharya Stotadashi Shrimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai, Namachari Sharidas Thakur Ki Jai, ISKCON Vadama Gurvan Ki Jai, Prem Sago Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Dvedikadadas Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopgopnath Shamkun Radhakun Giri Govardhani Ki Jai. The Lordships Lord Jagannath Baladev Sumadvarani Sudarshan Chakra Ki Jai, Lord Shri Shri Panchadadvashinita Gaura Sundar Ki Jai, Lord Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, Lord Shri Shri Giri Govardhani Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai, Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Shri Nilcha Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Shri Yoja Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Hare Nam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Gaura Premanande Hare Hare Bol. All glories to the assembly devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembly devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembly devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to the lotus feet of Shishi, Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladadayine Praladadayine Hiranyakashipurvakshahai Hiranyakashipurvakshahai Shilatankanakalaye Shilatankanakalaye Ito nishima parato nishima ito nishima parato nishima yato yato yami tato nishimo yato yato yami tato nishimo bahir nishimo hirdaye nishimo bahir nishimo hirdaye nishimo Narsingham madhyam sharanam prapade Narsingham madhyam sharanam prapade Tavakar kamala vare nakamadbhuta shingam Dalita hiranyakashipu tanubringa Keshavadhita narahari rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jayo Narsingha Dev, Jayo Narsingha Dev, Narsingha Dev, Jayo Narsingha Dev. Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj. Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada. श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय, भक्त प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जयो राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivaradhari Jayo Girivaradhari Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivaradhari Jayo Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jayo Radha Radhanath Radha Radhanath Radhe Jayo Prabhupada 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 Jayo Prabhupada 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada Shri Radha Madhava ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Their Lordships, Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani ki, Shri Shinitai Gaur Sundar ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanande. So, Hare Krishna, welcome to the Sunday Love Feast program. It's so heartwarming to see all of you here, especially on a long weekend. There are many things that happen in and around Durban. We tend to find there are lots of distractions over the long weekend, but it's so wonderful that you are here joining us to hear some Krishna Katha. So this week, before I continue, for those of you who don't know me, I'm usually on the other side of this service where I introduce the speaker to you. So I'll do that today as well. My name is Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. My name is Jalangi Dasi. I serve on the management here at the new Jagannath Puri temple, and I'm involved in a few services here as well. So this week we have the wonderful and most auspicious festival of the appearance of Lord Nishingadev. So in thinking about what I should speak about today, I thought it would be very fitting if we look at the pastime of Lord Nishingadev and examine what we can learn from the pastime. Now, the pastimes, the Leelas of the Lord are all perfect. And there's so much that we can take away from these Leelas, not just the story of the Lord's activities, but everything within the Leela has significance for us. And especially, I think, many devotees are very respectful of the form of Lord Nishingadev, who's seen as the protector. So today we're going to look at a few different angles and what we can learn from the past times. But first, let us recite some prayers in observance of respects to our parampara. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today's class is going to focus, interestingly, on the demon of the past time, and that is on Hiranyakashipu. Now you're going to think, Mataji, why are we focusing on the demon of the past time? Because the demons are actually very good lessons for us. Can anybody tell me why? Please forgive me. Those of you who've heard me before will know I'm a teacher by profession, so I like to ask a lot of questions. Why is the demon important to us in the past time? Peru? Yes, very good. One, there's always a demon in the past times. Anything else? Excellent. Excellent. That the very demons we see in the past times are very many times representations of the demonic qualities that exist within us as well. So when we read the Leelas, it's wonderful to nourish ourselves with what the Lord's supreme capabilities are, but we also need to nourish ourselves with the lessons that come from the demons. And we're going to start today, before we look at some Shastric references, we're going to start by looking at the definition of pride. If we can please change the slide. So, in the Oxford Dictionary, pride is defined as a noun, means it names something. A high or inordinate opinion of one's own dignity, importance, merit, or superiority, whether as cherished in the mind or as displayed in bearing, conduct, etc. Or the state of feeling of being proud, a becoming or dignified sense of what is due to oneself or one's position or character. And finally, pride is pleasure or satisfaction taken in something done by or belonging to oneself or believed to reflect credit upon oneself. Now, I want you to hold these definitions in your mind as we go through the Leela, and we're going to try and identify why our Hiranyakashipu demon is a perfect representation of this definition of pride. So we'll read from Bhagavad Gita. So first let us offer some respects. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the topic of pride is very much central to understanding, especially in the chapters that speak about the divine and the demonic natures. When we read from Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, text 4, it says, Dambo darpa bimanascha krodha parusyamevacha ajnanam chabitasya partha sampadam asuram. Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of demonic nature, O son of Partha. When you read a little bit of the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, in this verse, the royal road to hell is described. The demonic want to make a show of religion and advancement in spiritual science. Although they do not follow the principles, they are always arrogant or proud in possessing some type of education or so much wealth. They desire to be worshipped by others and demand respectability, although they do not command respect. Over trifles, they become very angry and speak harshly, not gently. They do not know what should be done and what should not be done. They do everything whimsically according to their own desires, and they do not recognize any authority. These demonic qualities are taken on by them from the beginning of their bodies in the wombs of their mothers, and as they grow, they manifest all these inauspicious qualities. Now, I hope as we were reading that, we didn't think about someone specifically in our mind. But primarily, we should look at this verse, and the first thing we should do is to identify whether we recognize these qualities within ourselves. So, this verse relies very much on the corollary verse or the idea in the Bhagavad Gita that speaks about lust, anger, and greed. Now, lust, anger, and greed, in English we have an expression, we say they are good bedfellows, meaning they always go together. When we are greedy and lustful for something and it doesn't become ours, then it is followed very closely by anger. So lust, anger, and greed are very much connected to the idea of pride. Now, I'm going to ask a question here. Do you think that we, or rather let me rephrase it, why do you think that each of us struggles with the idea of pride? Why do you think each of us struggles with the idea of pride? Yes, Prabhu. We think more of ourselves. Wonderful, very good answer. Why do we think more of ourselves? Yes. We want to be the beneficiary of everything. Excellent. So Prabhu has given us two very good starting points to understand why pride is a quality that exists within all of us. Firstly, we have to understand why we are actually here on this earth planet. Can someone tell me, what is the reason you are here on the earthly planet and not with the Supreme Lord where we belong? Absolutely. So our first instance of pride is seen in the fact that we wanted to be lords over material nature. We wanted to be the enjoyer. And so Lord makes facility for us, and here we are. And now that we are here, we also have facility, again given by the Lord, to either understand what is my constitutional position, or to continue believing that we are meant to be the enjoyers. So this is the wonderful mercy of the Lord, that He grants your desires accordingly. So one of the things we have to understand is that in the Lord's Leelas, He's constantly giving us the opportunities in which to view our lives. We can choose to understand the philosophy of right living, given by the example of the Lord, or we can choose to understand the philosophy of how to be trapped within this material nature, and that's given by the demons. Now, the description of demons or demonic natures are meant to teach us what inauspicious qualities are. And they also meant to help us identify those inauspicious qualities within ourselves. Now, when we looked at our definition of pride, we're going to understand, as we go through the Leela, why Hiranyakashipu is a perfect example of pride. Now, it's said that for one to attain the Lord is, in one sense, easy. Easy in the sense that one has a choice. You can choose to be absorbed in attaining material perfection, or you can choose to be absorbed in attaining spiritual perfection. The difference between those two is the material perfection does not necessarily exist, because our constitutional nature is that we are servant of the Lord, and that which will make us happy can never be given by our material situation. So it is better in many senses to have a somewhat imperfect relationship with the Lord and still gain benefit from it than to have a perfect relationship with material nature and gain no happiness and satisfaction. And that's given to us very nicely here in the chapter in Bhagavad Gita on the divine and demonic natures. Now, what we have to also understand is the Lord is partial to His devotees. That means, although the Lord maintains all living entities, positive, negative, divine, demonic, the Lord is partial to His devotees. So to win the favor of the Lord is to take a step in the right direction. So we have to understand what are those activities, what are those qualities that we must now find within ourselves and exhibit to win the favor of the Lord. Now, having said that, if we can have the next slide, please. In this verse that we just read, in Bhagavad Gita 16:04, we need to understand that quantity and that quality of pride that exists within us and why it is so dangerous for us. So here we define it in the following ways. It states that pride is the characteristic of the ungodly. Now, what did I just say to you just now? To win the favor of the Lord, we have to do those things that make us qualified. So immediately, if we have pride, it belongs to the qualities of the ungodly. Pride originates in the misconception that we permanently own the things that we only temporarily possess. Talents and abilities, positions and possessions. Pride infatuates us with our temporary possessions and sends us off to a dangerous ego trip, being propelled by the imagination that we are superior to others and independent of Krishna. The ride that pride takes us on is perilous from the beginning to end. From the moment we become proud, we sentence ourselves to loneliness and insecurity. We feel lonely because our very desire for superiority alienates us from those around us, as well as from Krishna. We feel insecure because of the fear that our sources of pride can and will be taken away from us at some time or the other. Hoping to get rid of the insecurity, we bury our fears by increasing our external bluff and bravado. Tragically, this only increases our loneliness, which in turn makes us more insecure, thereby activating a vicious cycle. Now, this is a beautiful way in which this is expressed. That pride is almost like a door leading you to hell. Because when we think that we own what we have, that everything within this material world is ours, then we will lust after it, we will spend our life in achieving it, and when we achieve it, we will assume that we own it. This goes for all the work that we do as well. When we assume that the results of our work belong to us, then it sets you on a very, very difficult path. And Srila Prabhupada very nicely in the purport here discusses this as a vicious cycle. He says, when we start to believe that we are owners of this material nature and the energies and the work and the results of it, then it leads to loneliness and insecurity. Loneliness because we alienate ourselves, especially from Krishna. And when you're insecure, when you worry, oh, are these things mine? How can I hold control over these things? Then we constantly work to maintain false control over them. And so it becomes a vicious cycle. So already the Shastra is telling us this quality of pride can bring you right down to your knees, because it automatically shifts the understanding that the absolute supreme truth, the Supreme Lord, is the owner of everything, and it shifts your belief to the fact that you falsely think you are the owner of everything. So I think it's important to also discuss with you why I want to focus on Hiranyakashipu today. So Narada Muni recites this very wonderful verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 1, Text 26. He says, therefore, by enmity or by devotional service, by fear, by affection, or by lusty desire, by all these or any one of them, if a conditioned soul somehow or the other concentrates his mind upon the Lord, the result is the same. For the Lord, because of his blissful position, is never affected by enmity or friendship. So this speaks to the neutrality of the Lord. Even Hiranyakashipu, Putana, all the demons that you can think about, all in essence are souls that belong to the Supreme Lord. So when they engage with the Lord, although in enmity, in the form of the enemy or the demon, the Lord's neutrality ensures that he engages with them in the attempt to return that soul to him. So even the biggest demon like Hiranyakashipu, he's still deserving of the Lord's mercy. That's because of the magnanimous nature of the Lord. So what to speak of Hiranyakashipu, who was such a demon? All of us, hopefully we're not bigger demons than Hiranyakashipu, but all of us are worthy of that mercy of the Lord. So let's get into the story part of the pastime of Hiranyakashipu and the deliverance of Prahlad. So many of you would have heard this pastime, and we go through it annually around the time of Nishingaday of Chaturdasi, which is a good thing actually, because when we hear something repeatedly, then one, it helps us to remember, and two, it may help us to develop an understanding more than we did the last time. So sometimes when you sit in the class and the speaker says, this is what I'm going to talk about, you should try not to go, oh no, I heard this before. I think try rather to see it as, let me have an opportunity to learn something different from what the speaker is saying, or let me at least have the opportunity to reinforce this in my mind. So this pastime is discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam in Canto 7. And Yudhishthira Maharaj is speaking with Narada Muni, and well, there's many discussions that take place in this in Canto 7, but we'll focus specifically on the story in the interest of time. So here in this verse 7.140, we are told the story of how Hiranyakashipu came to exist on the earth planet. So in the heavenly planets, there were two associates of the Lord, Jaya and Vijaya. And Jaya and Vijaya were the gatekeepers. And so in the pastime it goes that these four Brahmin boys, called the four Kumaras, appeared wanting to enter into Goloka Vrindavan. And because, of course, these young Brahmin boys are transcendental personalities, they appear unclothed. So Jaya and Vijay do not allow them to enter. And so they curse them to be born 3 times as demons in the earth's earthly planet. So Jai and Vijay become Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So they are 2 demonic brothers. Now Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu were really what we call asuras. The word asura means demon. Literally speaking, asura means one who controls breath. But here, these 2 demons were running amok on the planet. They were terrorizing the Brahmins. They were really destroying what was already shaken foundations in so many instances. So the Lord takes birth as Varaha. And Lord Varaha is what incarnation? The boar. Now, he takes birth as Varaha, and as the form of Varaha, he destroys the brother of Hiranyakashipu, who is Hiranyaksha. And now, Hiranyakashipu is raging mad. He's saying, who dares to kill my brother? This Vishnu, who does he think he is? So immediately, in Hiranyakashipu's demonic heart, which was already so faulty, so polluted, there develops this hate for Vishnu. And Hiranyakashipu vows to take revenge by destroying Vishnu. Now, you can be asking yourself this question, or you should be thinking, what a silly man. If Lord Vishnu is the form of the Supreme Lord, why does he even think he can destroy the Supreme Lord? But here is our first example of his pride. Remember when we read our definition of pride, what did it say? When someone assumes they are superior, that they are able to control any situation. So Hiranyakashipu, he had no respect, he had no consideration for Lord Vishnu. Now, the important lesson for us to understand here is that Hiranyakashipu's motives were always inauspicious. As a demon, his motives are always inauspicious. Now, interestingly, in the Bhagavatam, in this canto, you'll read of how Hiranyakashipu consoles all of the family members after the death of Hiranyaksha. And he says to them very nicely, he gives them example. He says that like the sun that rises and sets, there will be another day in which Hiranyaksha will be victorious. So Hiranyakashipu speaks such wise words. In fact, if you listen to him and you don't know that he's a demon, you'll assume that he's speaking wise words from the Shastra. But the words are not wise because the intention is ill. He speaks these words as an assurance to all around him, don't worry, I'm here. I will ensure that the revenge for Hiranyaksha is taken. And in order to do that, Hiranyakashipu decides, from now onwards, I will do whatever I take to destroy Indra. Now, this pastime very clearly illustrates to us the danger of our false ego. Now, Hiranyakashipu, he assumes that, thank you so much, Prabhuji. This is the wonderful nature of our Kamyavan Prabhu. He's always trying to serve, and I should be serving him, and thank you so much. Yes, Hiranyakashipu, his false ego assumes that he is now going to be able to destroy Indra, and he will do whatever it takes. So he orders the demons to start increasing their inauspicious activities, creating havoc on the earth planet. And he says, I'm not sure though why I haven't seen this Lord Vishnu yet. Now Hiranyakashipu is also intelligent, as most demons are. He's intelligent and he realizes if Lord Vishnu could come as Varaha and kill Hiranyaksha, then what form is he going to come to kill me? So he says, I must be intelligent and I must ensure that I am clearly protected from any form that Lord Vishnu is going to take. So he decides, he becomes obsessed with finding a way to destroy Lord Vishnu. So he decides one way to do that would be to get the boon of deciding how to make himself immortal. Right? What does it mean to be immortal? It means you can never die. You can never die. You can never be destroyed. So he knows that Brahma, when Brahmaji sees someone performing great austerities, great tapasya, then Brahmaji is obliged to present those or to benedict whatever this yogi is doing tapasya for. So he decides, Hiranyakashipu, that he is now going to go to do his tapasya. So what does he do? He stands on the tips of his toes for thousands of years. So long, in fact, in the Bhagavatam it's described that the ants start to build a mound around him, and all of the flesh from his body then disintegrates, and fire emanates from him. And this fire is so intense because his tapasya is so strong that it starts to dry the oceans in the world. And there's great natural disasters as a result of this tapasya that Hiranyakashipu is doing. So immediately Brahmaji says, oh, this is so difficult. Now I must grant some benediction to him or the world will be destroyed. So Naramuni is saying to Maharaj Yudhishthira here, the demonic king Hiranyakashipu, he wanted to be unconquerable and free from old age and dwindling of the body. He wanted to gain all the yogic perfections like Atma and Lakshmi, to be deathless and to be the only king of the entire universe, including Brahma Loka. So all this major tapasya that Hiranyakashipu was performing was because he wanted something. He wanted something. And what he wanted was to fuel his false ego and his pride. So Brahmaji asks him, he comes to him and he says, you've performed all of these tapasyas, what benediction can I give you? And Hiranyakashipu says, I want to be immortal. And Brahmaji says, but I can't give you that, not even I am immortal. So he says, and this is how interesting Hiranyakashipu's response is. He says, well, no, don't give me anything very difficult, but if you want to, you can give me the following things. And he asks for these 4 things. He wants to be unconquerable, he wants to be youthful, he wants to have yogic perfection, and he wants to be the king of the universe. So Brahma grants these very, very unnervingly. And as soon as he grants it, what does Hiranyakashipu do? He starts to infiltrate all of the worlds. He troubles the demigods. He puts Brahmaji, even Indra, under submission. And when he does that, the demigods are now fearful. What do we do? Here's this demon, and he is powerful beyond any of us. In fact, in the Bhagavatam, it speaks about how Hiranyakashipu makes all the demigods his servants, and he sits there enjoying this privilege. Now, this is classically an example of pride. You know, Hiranyakashipu, I want to talk about his character that is described in the Bhagavatam. In text 13, it says, "O my dear king, Hiranyakashipu was always drunk and strong-smelling wines and liquors, and therefore his coppery eyes were always rolling. Nonetheless, because he had powerfully executed great austerities in mystic yoga, although he was abominable, all but the 3 principal demigods, Lord Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu, personally worshipped him to please him by bringing him various presentations with their own hands." Now, Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu have now had it with Hiranyakashipu. So they capture, before we get to that, very interesting part of this pastime I want to tell you. while he is performing his tapasya, Narada Muni says to, Brahmaji says to Narada Muni, I don't know what we're going to do with this demon. How do we sort him out? So Narada Muni goes together with another sage as two little birds sitting on a tree near where Hiranyakashipu is performing his tapasya. And they whistle the tune of Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Narayana. And this is annoying Hiranyakashipu now. He cannot concentrate. And what is he constantly hearing in his mind? Om Namo Narayana. So he gets upset. And he goes back home to his palace. And he meets his wife Kayadu. And she says, but my lord, why are you back so quickly? What has happened? And he says, you know, when I was there doing my tapasya, these two birds were driving me crazy. And they were constantly saying, Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Narayana. So I came back because I could not concentrate in that moment. And that evening, he has sexual relations with his wife, and she conceives Prahlad Maharaj in that time. But while he is with his wife, Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Narayana, he's so angry. And this mantra is playing in his mind. And in the Shastra it says that if one remembers the Supreme Lord, then one will beget a child who is divine in nature. So that explains to us, as we get through our story, that Hiranyakashipu didn't want any association with the Lord. But little did he understand the Lord's amazing arrangement, that even he was remembering the Lord, although he was remembering with hatred. Right? So, when he returns to his tapasya, his wife Kayadu is captured by the demigods, because now they don't know how else to get to Hiranyakashipu. And while Kayadu is now expecting Prahlad Maharaj, she's given shelter of Narada Muni's cottage. And there she hears the Bhagavatam constantly for all the time in which Prahlad Maharaj is in her womb. So Hiranyakashipu, when he returns and Prahlad Maharaj is born and now is 5 years old, he's saying, oh, there's my wonderful son, my next generation. Let me see how wonderful an asura, demonic king you are going to be. And Prahlad Maharaj, in the meantime, he was doing his own Krishna Katha within the school. So Hiranyakashipu calls the two teachers and he says to them, what are you teaching what are you teaching Prahlad Maharaj? He's only speaking about this Lord Vishnu, the Lord Vishnu, the Lord Vishnu. Why is he speaking about my enemy? And the teachers are saying to him, but we have not taught this to him. And true to their word, they have not taught it to him, because Prahlad Maharaj is born imbued with the divine understanding of the Supreme Lord. So Hiranyakashipu, he now gets angry. And this is the second example of his pride. He says, teach him the right thing, or I will have to punish him. And, you know, one normally thinks that a father will be the protector and not the punisher. The fact that Hiranyakashipu was prepared to punish his son should tell you what his pride and ego was. He would rather maintain his enmity with the Lord than to protect his son and allow him to worship Lord Vishnu. Now, Hiranyakashipu was very clever in asking for his boons. What did he demand? And this is where we understand when we sing our Nishinga Pranams. He says, grant me that I don't die within any residence or outside any residence, during the day or night, on the ground or the sky. Grant me that my death not be brought by any being other than those created by you, nor by any weapon, nor by any human being or animal. Now, Hiranyakashipu, he was covering his bases here, right? So he says, oh, Vishnu, you're not going to catch me inside or outside. You're not going to be able to kill me whether it's day or night. You're not going to kill me in any form, whether human or animal. And these demands seemed very intelligent to Hiranyakashipu. He thought, I got this in the bag. There's no way that Lord Vishnu is going to kill me. We're going to come, okay, I think, can we switch the slide, please, to the one that says Prahlad Maharaj. Now, little did Hiranyakashipu realize the supreme arrangement of the Lord. While he was making his arrangements to be unconquerable and to live forever, the Lord had already made arrangement for this pastime in the form of his devotee of Prahlad. And Prahlad Maharaj, he, as a child, is a classic representation of a philosophy we even have here, where we say the child is the father of man. Do we know what that means? The child is the father of man. It means that very often children, through their innocence and purity, are able to teach us what we as adults do not know. So Prahlad Maharaj, he represents the divine nature that the Lord makes arrangement for in this pastime. So Hiranyakashipu is assuming, I'm too good. I've got it covered, I've got it sorted. Little does he realize that the same Lord Vishnu he has created an enemy of, he's already present in his life through the form of Prahlad Maharaj. Now, Prahlad Maharaj, if we switch to the next slide, please. We were talking about a father's pride. And that's what a father's pride is, usually his son or daughter. Either way is fine. But in this case, his pride was that he will have another generation of an Asura king. But his pride was also that he wanted to maintain his superiority over Lord Vishnu. So he said to Prahlad Maharaj, O most impudent, most unintelligent disruptor of the family, O lowest of mankind, you have violated my power to rule you, and therefore you are an obstinate fool. Today I shall send you to the place of Yamaraj. My son Prahlad, you rascal, you know that when I'm angry at all the planets of the three worlds tremble, along with their chief rulers, by whose power has a rascal like you become so impudent that you appear fearless and overstep my power to rule you. So he's asking this of Prahlad Maharaj. And due to that pride, that ego that Hiranyakashipu has, he puts Prahlad Maharaj to many, many, many obstacles. He leaves him to be stampeded by a mad elephant. He throws him into a pit of snakes. He has them throw him off a cliff, only to find Prahlad Maharaj floating gently like a feather. He has them attacked. And each time Prahlad Maharaj is protected by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And this angers Hiranyakashipu even more. He says, where's this Lord of yours? And Prahlad Maharaj simply says, this Lord that is here maintains you and maintains me. And Hiranyakashipu says, so where's he? Show me where he is. Is he here? Is he here? And then he takes his sword and he smashes into the pillar. And then the Lord appears as Lord Nishingadev. And it's so wonderful in the Bhagavatam, the way the fight between Nishingadev and Hiranyakashipu is described like an eagle and a mouse. Because the Lord will let Hiranyakashipu, who's strong. He's an asura demon. He's intelligent in fighting. So Hiranyakashipu will be winning, and then the Lord smacks him around a little bit, and then he lets Hiranyakashipu think he's winning, and Hiranyakashipu's ego fills a little more. And then eventually, when that fight has been going for a long while, it is now the change from day into night. So the Lord grabs Hiranyakashipu, and of course the Lord has appeared as half man and half lion. So he grabs him and he stands in the threshold of the door, which is neither in nor out. And he sits him on the lap, so he's neither on the ground or in the air. And then he uses his nails to dismember Hiranyakashipu. So Hiranyakashipu's pride brought him to the point of not understanding how he is not the controller of the world, of the nature, of the energies of the devotee. His demonic personality is what brought him to the point of, even though speaking so ill against the Lord, even though having all of this enmity, still receiving the mercy of the Lord. So, in telling, there's so much to tell in this pastime, we can have a couple of hours of class, but I'm trying to condense to you those parts that teach us important lessons. Now, earlier on I said the Lord always protects the devotee. And that is clearly shown to us in Prahlad Maharaj taking shelter and having full faith of the Supreme Lord. He is protected. And so wonderfully, after the Lord kills Hiranyakashipu, he says to Prahlad, he says, "What benediction shall I grant you?" And Prahlad Maharaj's one request is, he says, "Please forgive my sinful father." So the mercy of the devotee is so clearly coming from the mercy of the Lord. So there are very important lessons to learn from there. Number one, the most obvious lesson, the divine nature always succeeds over the demonic nature. Secondly, the divinity of Prahlad Maharaj could only have been achieved by him taking shelter of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The destruction of Hiranyakashipu could only have been achieved because of his false ego and pride. Now, we all assume, if we can have the next slide, please. We all assume that Hiranyakashipu is the demon. Okay, Prabhu's not there to change the slide, it's fine. We assume that Hiranyakashipu is the demon on the outside. But more importantly, we got to consider the demon on the inside. Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani Nitai Gaura Sundar. So, whilst we identify Hiranyakashipu as the demon in the past time, there's a Hiranyakashipu in every one of us. It can be our pride. Oh, I'm not going to listen to that Mataji today. She talks too much. I can stay at home and I'll read and I'll be fine. It can be our false ego. I don't need this. Why must I come to that temple? They only ask me for money. It can be our assumption that everything we own is due to our doing. I worked hard for this. I can't just give away what I worked hard for. So within each of us, there's a Hiranyakashipu. And it's good that we pray to Lord Nishingadev for protection. Yes, there's that aspect of protection that the Lord gives to us. But more than protection, or rather a different way of praying for protection, is to pray to the Lord that this false ego, this Hiranyakashipu within you is destroyed. And how merciful and wonderful is the Lord that is already given to you. The Lord is so merciful, He'll show you the problem and He'll give you the solution as well. And that solution is, in so many ways, very accessible to us. Number one, it's take shelter of the holy name. Number two, it is find the shelter of a spiritual master. Number three, it's perform devotional service. Now, why are these three things important? Because they're going to constantly keep you in the shelter of the Supreme Lord. And if you're in the shelter of the Supreme Lord and He's protecting you and your bhakti, your devotion, then the Hiranyakashipu in you got no chance to win. He's got no chance to win. So, just to sum up what we have learned today, pride, false ego, anger, greed, all those inauspicious qualities take us away from practicing our devotional service properly. Divine qualities, submission and surrender to the Lord, performing devotional service, taking shelter of a spiritual master, they all keep us strengthened in the mercy and the protection of the Lord. So I hope that you have learned something from the class that we have had today, and that as you pray to Lord Nishingadev, especially with his appearance on Thursday, you pray for the strength to fight the demon within you. Now all of us may have different demons. You only know, you are the one who knows your demon best. And when you pray to the Lord for that protection, then who can stop the Lord from protecting you? You know, we have a wonderful little expression that we use with the children. We say, Mare Krishna Rake Krishna Marike. If Krishna wants to destroy you, no one can protect you. But if Krishna wants to protect you, no one can stop that and destroy you. So as we go into the Aarti ceremony, I'd like to invite you to our Nishingadev Chaturdasi program on Thursday. It begins with Abhishek at 5:30 p.m. and then there's fast breaking, I think it's at dusk, which is between 6 and 7, followed by Gaura Aarti. We have a wonderful little play by our children in the Bhaktivedanta College, and thereafter class will be by His Holiness Partha Sarati Das Goswami Maharaj. If that is okay, we will stop class here. We don't have time for some questions or comments, but if you have a question, you're welcome to find me after the program, and we'll see if we can help you understand that. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So we'll have the Aarti ceremony and some kirtan.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesa Shunnavadi Paskata Desatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jagannath, Swami Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Nita Gaura Sundar, Nita Gaura Sundar, Gaura Sundar. Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva. Jai Radha Radhanath Radha Radhanath Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Giri Govardhan Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajkacharya Astotra Sat Shishimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Food for Life founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajkacharya Astotra Sat Shishimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Sundar Ki Jai. Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha Bhagwan Ki Jai. Shri Guru Parampara Ki Jai. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Nilachal Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Chamana Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladev Jaya Subhadra Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladev Jaya Subhadra Shiva Jaya Jaya Gaura Cha chande arati ko shobha Kiva jayo jayo gaura chande arati ko shobha